The first thing I heard after I died was the sound of a keyboard clicking behind me. Not thunder, not angels, not my mother crying over my cold body in the hospital bed, but the dry, shameless little taps of someone stealing from me again.
Click, click, click.
I opened my eyes to the white ceiling of classroom 3A, the ceiling with the brown water stain shaped like a crooked map of China, and for 3 seconds I forgot how to breathe. The afternoon sun slanted through the windows in golden bars. Chalk dust floated like tiny ghosts. My desk felt hard beneath my forearms. My old pencil case sat to my right, faded blue, zipper broken on one side. And on the blackboard, written in our homeroom teacher's rushed handwriting, were the words that made every drop of blood in my body turn cold. Final exam countdown. 21 days. I knew that board.
I knew that day.
I knew the smell of instant coffee from the teacher's desk, the sticky heat trapped under our uniforms, and the whispering behind me that always stopped when I turned around. I had lived this day before. In my last life, this was the day I uploaded my complete final exam review folder to the class cloud drive because I was stupid enough to believe kindness was the same as being respected. In my last life, I shared my notes, answer patterns, essay templates, mock questions, formula summaries, and the prediction sheet I had built from 3 years of school exam trends. In my last life, my classmates smiled at me, thanked me, copied everything, ranked above me, and then watched silently when I was accused of cheating because my answers looked too similar to theirs. In my last life, the class beauty, Lin Yu, stood beside the teacher with red eyes and a trembling voice and said, "I don't know why her work matches mine. I just studied hard."
She cried.
Everyone believed her. I was suspended during the scholarship review. My recommendation was canceled. My mother bowed to the principal until her forehead nearly touched the desk. My father sold his delivery motorcycle to pay for appeal documents that never worked. 3 years later, I died from exhaustion after collapsing outside a tutoring center, still carrying the name cheater like a stone tied around my neck. And now I was back, 21 days before finals, with my shared cloud folder still open on my laptop and Lin Yu's reflection visible in the dark edge of my screen, smiling as she copied my life one file at a time. I did not scream. That was the first difference between the old me and the girl who had come back from death. The old me would have gasped, cried, shaken, maybe asked the universe why it was cruel enough to return me to the mouth of the same wolf. But death had cleaned something out of me. It had burned away the need to be liked. I looked down at my laptop screen. The cloud folder was open. The title read, Class 3A Final Review Shared Resources. Under it were 37 folders, each one organized by subject, topic, difficulty, and likely exam value. I had made them in the last life, during nights, when everyone else slept. I remembered drinking cold water to stay awake because coffee made my stomach hurt. I remembered typing formulas with numb fingers. I remembered telling myself, if we all do well, maybe they will finally accept me. Behind me, I heard Chun Bo whisper, "Did she upload math yet?" Another voice answered, "She always does. Don't worry. Not thank her. Not ask her. Just she always does." My fingers rested on the trackpad. The cursor hovered over the folder settings. My heartbeat was slow, almost lazy, like a judge waiting for the defendant to finish lying. Lin Yu leaned over from the aisle, her perfume soft and sweet, the same floral scent she wore on the day she destroyed me. "Yunxi," she said in that delicate voice everyone loved, "you're still working on the cloud folder? You're amazing. I really admire how generous you are." In my last life, those words made me blush. In this life, they sounded like a thief praising the lock before picking it. I turned my head and smiled at her. Not warmly, not angrily, just enough for her to mistake it for obedience. "Almost done," I said. Her eyes flicked to my screen, quick as a needle. "That's good. Everyone's depending on you." Everyone.
Depending.
On me. I nodded slowly, opened the admin panel, selected the shared folder, and clicked Remove Access for all users. Then I clicked Delete Folder. A warning popped up. This action will move all shared items to trash. Collaborators will lose access. My hand did not tremble. I clicked confirm. The silence that followed was not immediate. At first, nobody noticed. That was the beautiful part. The class continued breathing in its lazy afternoon rhythm. Someone crumpled a snack wrapper. Someone laughed under their breath. Our physics teacher was late, as usual, so half the room had their tablets open, pretending to review while actually downloading my work. I watched the first reaction bloom from the back row. Chunbo tapped his screen twice, frowned, refreshed, then sat up. Huh. His friend beside him said, "What?" "The folder's gone." A small ripple passed through the room. Not panic yet. Panic has layers. The first layer is denial. Maybe Wi-Fi dropped. Refresh. Use the old link. Check the group chat. No. Open from history. I closed my laptop quietly and slid it into my bag. Lin Yu's smile weakened. Her gaze sharpened, then softened again when she remembered people were watching. Yunxi, she asked gently, did something happen to the folder? I tilted my head. What folder? Her lashes fluttered. The review folder. The one you shared with us. Oh, I said, as if remembering something unimportant. I deleted it. That was when the second layer arrived. Not panic. Offense. 30 faces turned toward me, as if I had slapped them. Chunbo stood up, so fast his chair scraped the floor. You deleted it?
Why?
I looked at him calmly. Because it was mine. The words landed wrong in their ears. I could see it. They had spent so long treating my work as class property that ownership sounded like selfishness. A girl near the window, Zhao Min, hugged her tablet and said, "But finals are in 3 weeks." I know. We need those notes. Then make notes. A boy laughed like I had told a joke, but nobody joined him. Lin Yu pressed one hand to her chest. Yunxi, maybe you're stressed.
We can talk about it.
You don't have to do something so extreme. Extreme. That was what she called me, closing my own door after they had spent years walking in without knocking. I smiled again. You're right.
I'm stressed.
So from now on, I'm only responsible for myself. Our physics teacher entered at that exact moment, carrying a stack of worksheets and a cup of tea with the lid half open. Teacher Huang was a thin woman with sharp cheekbones, sharper eyes, and the emotional warmth of a locked filing cabinet. The room snapped into fake discipline, but the air was already boiling. Chunbo tried to sit, missed the edge of his chair, and nearly fell. Someone snorted. Teacher Huang looked at him over her glasses. If your legs are too excited to support you, stand for the lesson. In my last life, I feared teachers because every adult had seemed like a gatekeeper to my survival. This time, I watched more carefully. Teacher Huang was strict, but she was not stupid. She noticed everything. Her gaze moved from Chunbo's red face to Lin Yu's pale one, then to me, sitting with my hands folded on an empty desk. Open your mock exam corrections, she said. Today we are discussing final answer structures. A rustle swept through the room. Tablets lit up. Screens opened. And then the third layer arrived. Realization. Half the class had not downloaded the correction file because they assumed it would remain in my folder forever. The boy in front of me whispered, "Send it to me." His friend whispered back, "I don't have it." Another hissed, "Ask Lin Yu." Lin Yu froze. In the last life, she always had everything because she copied it the night I uploaded it. But today I had deleted the folder before the math summary finished syncing, before the physics corrections, before the chemistry prediction sheet, before the English essay bank. The files she had were old, incomplete, and deliberately harmless because I had spent the last 30 minutes before Rebirth in my previous life remembering exactly when I uploaded each version. My Rebirth had not returned me to the beginning of the semester. It had returned me to the Blade's Edge, the day before the Real treasure went public. Teacher Huang wrote a problem on the board and said, "Final question type 3. Which answer format gets full marks?" Nobody spoke. Her chalk paused. Interesting. Last week, everyone was confident. I raised my hand. The room turned toward me like sunflowers forced toward fire. Teacher Huang nodded. "Su Zunxi." I stood and answered in a clear voice, giving the exact 3-step structure. Identify the principle, link the variable change, then state the final effect using the required wording. Teacher Huang listened, then gave one rare nod. Correct.
Seek. Iset.
Behind me, Chunbo whispered something ugly. I did not turn around. A dog barking at a closed gate is still outside. By lunch, the whole grade knew. That was because parasites panic loudly when the host stops feeding them. Messages flew through the class group chat, so fast my phone vibrated like an insect trapped in a jar. Did Yunxi really delete everything? Can someone recover it? Who has backups? Linyu, didn't you save the final prediction sheet? Yunxi, don't be petty. Upload it again. We're all classmates. Why are you acting like this? In my last life, I answered every message. I apologized when I had done nothing wrong. I explained until my throat hurt. I believed that if people understood my heart, they would stop stepping on it. This time, I turned off notifications and went to the cafeteria alone. The steamed egg was watery, the rice too dry, the soup mostly salt, and it tasted better than any meal I had eaten in the last 3 years of my previous life because nobody at the table was pretending to be my friend while planning to use me. I sat by the window and opened my private notebook. Not digital.
Paper.
The one thing they could not refresh, duplicate, or steal through a link. My real final plan was not in the cloud folder. It never had been. After the accusation in my last life, I spent years replaying every exam. I remembered the exact questions, not perfectly word for word, but close enough that the patterns glowed in my mind like road signs. Mathematics would include the disguised recurrence proof from the supplementary set, not the popular geometry trap everyone expected. Physics would use a combined circuit and energy loss question. Chemistry would twist the equilibrium essay into a materials scenario. English would ask for a moral ambiguity theme, not perseverance. History would compare reform language across 2 periods, and the marking guide would punish memorized slogans. I wrote all of it quietly while the cafeteria roared around me. Halfway through lunch, a shadow fell across my table. Linyu stood there holding a tray she had not touched. Behind her were 3 girls from our class, the kind who always floated around beauty and power like paper flowers in dirty water. Linyu's eyes were damp. Of course they were. She could summon tears faster than our school Wi-Fi loaded. Yunxi, she said softly, can we sit? I looked at the empty seats, then back at her.
No.
The girls behind her stiffened. One of them, Sun Qian, snapped. Don't go too far. Jaya is being nice. I took a bite of rice, chewed, swallowed, and said, she can be nice somewhere else. Lin Yu's face trembled beautifully. She had practiced that expression well. It made boys want to protect her and teachers want to believe her. In the last life, I had hated myself for not being soft like that. Now I saw softness could be a weapon if the hand holding it was cruel enough. I know you're upset, Lin Yu whispered. Maybe you think people didn't appreciate you. But deleting the folder hurts everyone. Some students rely on your notes because their families can't afford tutoring. You're smart. You don't understand how scary finals are for the rest of us. There it was. The moral knife. She did not say, give me your work. She said, good people share. She said, if you refuse, someone poor will suffer. She said, your boundaries are cruelty. I put down my chopsticks and looked at her. My family couldn't afford tutoring either. That's why I made the notes. Her lips parted. She had no answer ready for that because, in her script, I was the privileged villain and she was the gentle bridge between me and the helpless masses. I continued, voice calm. My mother cleans offices after work. My father delivers packages until his knees swell. I wrote those notes at 2 in the morning because I had no money to buy better ones. So tell me, Linyu, when you copied my folder last month and sold printed versions to students from Class 5 under the name Yia's Final Miracle Pack, were you also helping poor students? The cafeteria did not become silent all at once.
Silence has a body.
It crawled outward from the students close enough to hear, table by table, spoon by spoon, until even the soup line turned to look. Lin Yu's tears stopped halfway down her face. That was how I knew I had struck something real. Sun Qian shouted, What nonsense are you talking about? I opened my bag, took out a folded receipt, and placed it on the table. In my last life, I found it too late after everything was over. A transfer screenshot someone had accidentally posted showing payment to Linyu for review pack made from my files. This time, I had already printed the evidence from memory before school. Nonsense usually doesn't come with transaction IDs, I said. Linyu recovered quickly.
I had to give her that.
Snakes do not survive by being slow. Her eyes widened, then filled again, this time with wounded disbelief. Yunshi, how could you accuse me like this? I collected small printing fees because students asked me to help organize materials. I never said the work was mine. Really? I turned the paper over. On the back, I had written the promotional message she used in the private group outside our class. I read it aloud. Personally compiled by Linyu, based on exclusive final exam trends, limited copies available. Exclusive. Personally compiled. Those are your words. A few students pulled out their phones immediately.
Good.
Let them search. Let them forward. Let the same gossip machine that buried me in my last life carry a different corpse this time. Linyu's fingers tightened around her tray until the plastic bent. For half a second, her mask cracked, and the girl beneath stared at me with pure hatred. Then she lowered her head. I didn't know you felt so strongly. I'm sorry if I hurt you. I'll return the money. It was an elegant retreat.
Admit a small misunderstanding.
Offer repayment. Avoid the larger theft. In the last life, I would have felt guilty for pushing further. This life, I had no interest in teaching a thief how to apologize. Return it to them, I said. But don't mention me. I don't want my name attached to your business. The cafeteria murmured. Linyu flinched at the word business. Then a chair scraped at the next table, and Chunbo stood up. He had heard enough to know the tide might turn, and people like him never defended justice. They defended whichever side still had food. Okay, he said loudly. Even if Linyu printed some notes, why make such a big deal? We're all trying to survive finals. Yunshi, just restore the folder. Nobody cares about old drama. I looked at him. You care.
He scoffed.
Why would I? Because you didn't save the calculus corrections. His face changed before he could stop it. The cafeteria laughed. Not loudly, not yet, but enough. Enough to mark him. I picked up my tray, stood, and said, enjoy surviving. That afternoon, the class group chat split into 3 factions. The first demanded that I restore the folder. The second attacked Linyu for selling the notes. The third, the most shameless, asked whether anyone had bought her copies and could scan them. I watched none of it live. I had turned my phone over and was solving the recurrence proof everyone would ignore until it appeared on the final exam like a trapdoor opening beneath their feet. But the messages still reached me through screenshots from my only real friend, Jiang Ning. In the last life, I had pushed Ning away without meaning to. She was blunt, impatient, and allergic to fake kindness, which made me think she was cold. When the cheating accusation happened, she was the only one who stood outside the office and shouted that the school should check file histories. I told her to stop because I did not want trouble. She stopped talking to me after that. Not because she hated me, but because she could not bear to watch me beg for crumbs from people who had stolen my bread. Now, at 4:12 p.m., she slid into the seat beside me in the library and dropped a carton of strawberry milk onto my notebook. Drink, she said. I stared at it. Is this a peace offering from the living or a bribe from the dead? She narrowed her eyes. You're acting weird today. Good weird or report me to the counselor weird? Depends. Did you really delete the folder? Yes.
Good.
She opened her own textbook as if that settled the universe. My throat tightened unexpectedly, not from sadness, from the strange pain of being believed without performance. I pushed the receipt toward her. Linyu sold my notes. Ning glanced at it, unsurprised. Obviously. I blinked. You knew? I suspected. She suddenly became a study goddess after sitting behind you with her screen angled like a surveillance camera. She stabbed her straw into the milk carton and pushed it closer to me. Question is, what are you going to do now? I looked at the rows of books, the dust on their spines, the students pretending not to listen nearby, and I said, I'm going to let them study exactly what they deserve. The plan required patience, and patience was easier when I remembered my own funeral. That sounds dramatic, but it was true. Whenever anger tempted me to expose everything immediately, I picture my mother's hands in the last life, red and cracked from cleaning chemicals, gripping the hospital blanket as if she could pull me back by force. I picture my father standing outside the ward, too ashamed to cry in front of relatives who whispered that raising a daughter was expensive and useless if she could not even keep her reputation clean. I pictured Lin Yu posting a condolence message with a candle emoji. May Yunxi find peace. She was always quiet, but we were classmates. Under it, Chen Bo commented, life is fragile. They mourned me with the same fingers they used to bury me. That memory made me steady. I did not need revenge that exploded once and vanished. I needed revenge that educated. So I rebuilt the cloud folder privately under a new name, Garden Photos 2023. Inside were harmless files visible only to me and Jiang Ning. For everyone else, I prepared something better. 2 days after the deletion, when the class had exhausted begging and moved into resentment, I created a new shared folder titled Recovered Final Review Backup. I did not announce it. I simply allowed one old link, buried in the class chat history, to become active again. Then I waited. Within 7 minutes, Chen Bo entered. Within 9, Lin Yu. Within 15, 23 classmates were inside, downloading, duplicating, whispering miracles. What did they find?
Notes.
Beautiful notes. Clean formatting, highlighted formulas, answer templates, mock essays, trend predictions, exactly like my old work. But each file was poisoned with a different kind of mistake. Not obvious mistakes. Obvious mistakes teach caution. These were elegant errors, the kind that looked like shortcuts. In mathematics, I emphasized the wrong transformation for a recurrence question that only failed in the final step. In physics, I wrote a memorized answer structure that ignored unit consistency when energy loss was introduced. In chemistry, I framed equilibrium as if temperature were constant in the exact scenario where the exam would change it. In English, I provided stunning phrases that sounded sophisticated but did not answer moral ambiguity. In history, I polished beautiful slogans that would earn half marks and no more. I did not invent nonsense. I built a mirror of their laziness. Anyone who understood the material would catch the flaws. Anyone who copied blindly would walk into the exam smiling. Jiang Ning called it evil. Then she asked for editing access so she could make the biology section more educationally lethal. I told her no because one villain in the story was enough, and she said, fine, but your fake organelle summary is too generous. We sat in the library after school, shoulder to shoulder, building 2 worlds, the true study plan in my notebook and the false paradise in the shared folder. Are you sure this won't count as cheating? Ning asked after a while, tapping her pen against her teeth. I'm not giving exam answers, I said. I'm sharing study notes with errors. If they rely on a random student's folder instead of learning, that's their choice. Random student? She looked at me. You are the top student. Not officially.
Not yet.
In the last life, my ranking had fallen after the accusation. Before that, I was always second, third, sometimes first in individual subjects, but never worshipped like Lin Yu because I did not photograph well with certificates. Lin Yu was the school beauty, student host, charity ambassador, class representative, the kind of girl teachers described as well-rounded because they could not see the hands pushing others down beneath the roundness. I was useful. She was marketable. That distinction had killed me once. Ning leaned closer to my paper notebook. What's this? My real prediction list. Her eyes widened as she read. This is specific. I have good pattern recognition. It was not a lie. Rebirth gave me memory, but memory without analysis was just a haunted archive. I still had to study, refine, prove, and prepare. Finals would not be won by knowing the past alone. Small changes could happen. A teacher might swap a question. A marking guide might shift. I was not going to become arrogant just because fate had handed me a knife. I would sharpen it properly. Ning was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, Yunshi, did something happen to you? I smiled without looking up. Yes. Do you want to tell me? Not yet. She nodded once. No pressure, no wounded expression, no demand to be trusted immediately. That was why I trusted her more. The first test of the trap came during math revision class. Teacher Luo, our math teacher, had the harmless face of a tired uncle and the soul of a battlefield commander. He loved springing small quizzes that destroyed bloodlines. That morning, he walked in carrying a single sheet of paper, and half the class relaxed because one sheet looked easy. I nearly laughed. A guillotine was also one blade. 10-minute check, he said. No discussion. Show steps. The quiz was not the final, but it tested the same thinking path as the recurrence proof. My real notebook had prepared me. My fake folder had prepared them for the wrong door. I solved it in 6 minutes, checked it in 2, and spent the final 2 watching the room. Chunbo was sweating by question 2. Sun Qian bit her pen until blue ink touched her lip. Lin Yu remained calm, but her calm had sharp edges now. She wrote quickly, paused, crossed out, wrote again. She had memorized the fake solution structure, but somewhere inside her, actual intelligence was fighting the poison. That was what made Lin Yu dangerous.
She was not stupid.
She was worse. She was capable enough to work, but greedy enough to steal instead. When Teacher Luo collected the papers, he graded them at the front desk with terrifying speed.
Red pen. Flip. Red pen.
Flip. The room held its breath. Su Yunshi, he said. Full marks. A few heads turned. I kept my face still. Yang Nink. Full marks. Ning stretched like a cat. Lin Yu. 6. The room rustled. 6 out of 10 was not disaster for most students, but for Lin Yu it was a public bruise. Her ears reddened. Teacher Luo continued. Chunbo. 3.
Zhao Min. 4.
Sun Qian. 2. He put down the red pen. Those of you who copied the same flawed transformation from somewhere, congratulations. Your handwriting differs, but your misunderstanding is identical. His eyes swept the room. The final exam will not reward memorized ghosts. I felt Lin Yu turn toward me. I did not look back. Pattern interruption. The teacher had noticed before I even needed to speak. After class, Chunbo slammed his quiz paper onto my desk. You did this on purpose. I looked at the red marks bleeding across his page. I didn't hold your pen. The backup folder had the wrong method. Then why did you use it? Because it was yours. His voice cracked. That was the confession beneath all their anger. They trusted my work enough to copy it, but not enough to respect me. They believed my accuracy was a resource, like electricity from the wall. When the lights went out, they cursed the switch, not their own unpaid bill. Several students gathered. Lin Yu approached slowly, quiz folded in her hand. She did not accuse. Not directly. She was too careful. Yunshi, she said, if there were mistakes in the recovered folder, you should have warned people. I didn't tell anyone to use it. But you knew they would. Did I? Her lips tightened. Around us, the class listened greedily. They wanted a fight because a fight would let them choose sides and avoid responsibility. I leaned back. Lin Yu, you're our study goddess. Why would you rely on a folder I didn't even announce? A few students lowered their eyes. The title hurt because it had been hers for months. She had worn it like silk. Now I wrapped it around her throat. She gave a small, sad laugh. You're angry at me, so you're trying to humiliate everyone. I understand, but finals are not a game. No, I said. They're not. That's why I'm studying. Chunbo jabbed a finger toward me. Selfish. The word hit the air and stayed there, tired from overuse. I stood, picked up my books, and looked at him until he stepped back despite being taller. Selfish is taking someone's work, selling it, copying it, then blaming her when your copied answer fails. What I am is unavailable. I walked out before anyone could reply. In the hallway, my legs shook for the first time that day, but not from fear. From the body remembering old submission and learning, slowly, that it no longer had to kneel. The next phase came from the teachers, because students who cannot control a resource often complain to management. On Friday morning, I was called to the academic office. The messenger was the class monitor, a boy who looked apologetic but still curious enough to walk slowly so he could ask, "Did you really sabotage the shared notes?" I stopped so suddenly he nearly bumped into me. "Do you believe everything Chinbo says?" "No, but then start practicing." I left him in the corridor and entered the office alone. Inside sat Teacher Huang, Teacher Luo, our homeroom teacher Ms. Han, and the grade director, Director Qian. Lin Yu was already there, hands folded in her lap, eyes pink. Of course. She had arrived early to place her sadness in the center of the room like evidence. Ms. Han looked tired. She had always liked peace more than justice. In my last life, when I was accused, she told me, "Even if you are innocent, you should reflect on why people misunderstood." I had reflected until my reflection disappeared. Director Qian cleared his throat. "Su Yunxi, several students reported that you deleted a class review folder and then uploaded misleading study materials. Is that true?" I glanced at Lin Yu. She looked down, fragile as frost. "I deleted my own folder," I said. "As for misleading materials, I uploaded notes to a link nobody was required to open. I never announced them as official." Teacher Luo's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Director Qian frowned. "Students say the folder used to be shared with the whole class."
Yes.
I shared it voluntarily. Then I stopped.
Why?
This was the moment the old me would have cried. I would have explained feelings, betrayal, stress, exhaustion. Adults often dislike feelings unless they can file them under discipline.
So I gave them facts.
I placed copies of the sales receipt, promotional message, and file access logs on the desk. Because my notes were copied, redistributed, and sold under another student's name. Because classmates relied on my unpaid labor while refusing to acknowledge it. Because I have finals too. Because school policy does not require me to provide private study materials to competitors. The word competitors made Ms. Han blink.
Good.
Let her remember what finals actually were. Director Qian picked up the papers. Teacher Huang leaned forward. Teacher Luo did not bother hiding his interest. Lin Yu's face drained of color, but she recovered with a whisper. "Director, I already explained. I only collected printing fees. I never meant to steal anything." Teacher Huang asked, "How much were the printing fees?" Lin Yu hesitated. "Different amounts. Some students wanted extra binding." Teacher Luo lifted the receipt. "This says 48 yuan for a digital copy." Silence. Printing fees do not apply to clouds. I turned my head toward the window so nobody would see the smile trying to break through. Director Qian's frown deepened. "Lin Yu, did you sell digital copies of Su Yunxi's materials?" She swallowed. "Some students insisted on paying because I organized them." "Did you receive permission?" Teacher Huang asked. Lin Yu's tears fell. "No, but everyone was using the folder. I thought it was communal." Communal. A beautiful word for theft when spoken by someone pretty enough.
MS. Han Sai Hid.
Yunxi, Lin Yu was wrong to sell materials without permission. But uploading incorrect notes also affects the learning atmosphere. Could you restore the correct folder and settle this privately? There it was. Peace demanding tribute from the person harmed. In my last life, I paid that tribute with my future. This time, I looked directly at her. "Teacher Han, if my notes are necessary for the class learning atmosphere, will the school credit me as teaching staff?" Teacher Luo coughed into his fist. Director Qian's eyebrows rose. I continued. "Will I receive service hours? A certificate? Protection from plagiarism? Written acknowledgement? Or am I only responsible when others fail?"
MS. Han Flus Hid.
"That's not what I meant. Then I won't restore it." The office air tightened. Lin Yu stared at me with something close to disbelief. She had expected anger, maybe tears, maybe negotiation. She had not expected policy language from a girl she thought survived on approval. Director Qian tapped the papers into a neat stack. "For now, no student is obligated to share personal study materials. Lin Yu, you will submit a written explanation of the paid distribution." Su Yunxi, do not circulate intentionally inaccurate academic materials under any title implying official recovery.
Fair.
Annoying but fair. I nodded. Understood. Before leaving, Teacher Luo said casually, Su Yunxi, come by my office after school. Bring your math notebook. Lin Yu's head snapped up. Mine did too, but for a different reason. In the last life, no teacher had asked to see my notebook until after they wanted to use it against me. Teacher Luo's office smelled like chalk, oranges, and old paper. He sat beneath a shelf of math contest books with cracked spines and gestured for my notebook. Show me your recurrence work. I handed it over. He flipped through slowly, expression unreadable. I watched his eyes move across my steps, corrections, alternate proof, marking notes, and the small warning I had written to myself. Do not overfit memory. Understand the mechanism.
He paused there.
Interesting sentence. My fingers tightened. I write reminders.
Good.
Most students write wishes. He turned another page. This solution is beyond our class pace. I studied ahead. Clearly. He closed the notebook. You know, Su Yunxi, there is a difference between being hardworking and being used. Hardworking students improve themselves. Used students improve everyone else and call it kindness. My throat tightened. He said it so plainly that it felt like someone had opened a window in a room where I had been suffocating for years. I didn't realize, I said. You realized late, not never. That still counts. He took out a blank sheet and wrote 3 problem numbers from an advanced packet. Solve these. If you can handle them, I'll recommend you for the provincial preparation group after finals. I stared at the paper. In the last life, Lin Yu had entered that group. Her recommendation had been one of the reasons teachers believed she was stronger than me. Later, I learned she used my summaries to pass the internal selection. Now the door was open in front of me. Not because I begged, but because I had finally stopped giving away the key. Thank you, Teacher Luo, I said. He waved a hand. Don't thank me yet. The problems are ugly. Ugly was fine. Ugly problems did not smile while stealing your future. The weekend became a battlefield without an audience. That was where real battles happen. Not in dramatic confrontations, not in cafeteria whispers, but at 11:43 p.m. when your eyes burn and nobody claps for solving one more question. I cleaned my desk, turned off my phone, taped a schedule to the wall, and divided the next 18 days into subject blocks. Morning, math proof and error patterns. Midday, physics integrated problems. Afternoon, chemistry mechanisms and equilibrium. Evening, English essays and history comparison frameworks. Night, review of mistakes. Every 3 hours, I stood, stretched, drank water, and reminded myself that revenge without excellence was just noise. My mother knocked once on Saturday evening and entered with sliced apples. She looked younger than she had at my hospital bed in the last life, but older than she deserved. You're studying too hard, she said. I almost laughed because in my previous life everyone said I had not studied honestly enough. I took the apples.
I'm okay.
She touched my hair. Did something happen at school? Mothers know. Not details, maybe, but weather. They feel storms in their children before thunder reaches the house. I wanted to tell her everything. I wanted to say I died, Mama. I wanted to say you cried so hard your voice broke, and I am sorry I left you alone with people who blamed me. Instead, I pressed my forehead against her arm for 1 second, just one, and said, I'm not lending my notes anymore. She was quiet. Then she said, Good. I looked up, startled. She smiled sadly. Your father and I always told you to be kind. Maybe we forgot to tell you kindness should not eat you alive. That sentence became another weapon. Not sharp.
Strong.
I carried it through the night. At school on Monday, the copycats had evolved. Some tried flattery. Yunxi, your handwriting is so neat. Can I just look at one page? Some tried guilt. My parents will kill me if I fail. Some tried bargaining. I'll pay you more than Lin Yu charged. That one made me laugh, so suddenly the boy stepped backward. You think the problem was pricing? I asked. He vanished. Chunbo tried intimidation near the stairwell with two friends standing behind him like badly arranged furniture. "You're making enemies," he said. I looked past him at the security camera above the stairs. "Wave while you threaten me." His friends immediately moved away. Chunbo cursed under his breath, but did not follow. Linyu tried something subtler. She stopped approaching me directly and began helping weaker students in visible places, explaining simple formulas, lending highlighters, kneeling beside desks with saintly patience whenever a teacher passed. It worked on some people. Maybe she really changed, Xiaomin whispered during break. She returned the money. "Yang ning sitting pesideme snorted." Returning stolen goods after getting caught doesn't make you generous. But I watched Linyu carefully. Her performance was not for classmates. It was for teachers. She needed to rebuild the image before finals, especially if Director Qian's investigation threatened her recommendation file. The problem for her was that she had tasted my notes for too long. Her own study foundation was uneven, like a building with a beautiful lobby and no load-bearing walls. She could explain basic formulas because she had memorized them. She struggled when the question changed clothes. And finals, I knew, would arrive wearing masks. The second trap sprang in English. Our English teacher, Miss Pei, assigned a timed essay on moral ambiguity, the exact theme I knew would appear in finals. My fake folder included a gorgeous template about unyielding perseverance in the face of adversity, filled with phrases so polished they reflected nothing. Students loved it. I knew because I heard lines from it echoing all week. The human spirit rises like dawn. Obstacles become the furnace of greatness. Perseverance is the bridge between suffering and triumph. Beautiful. Useless. The prompt Ms. Pei gave us was, discuss how a character's morally questionable choice reveals a deeper truth about society. I nearly smiled when half the room began writing dawns and bridges. Linyu paused longer this time. She sensed danger. I watched her cross out her opening sentence and begin again. Good. Let her work. Let her feel the muscles she neglected. I wrote about a character who lies to protect a corrupt family system, arguing that the lie is not noble but socially produced, shaped by reputation, gender expectation, and fear of exclusion. I used concise evidence, not perfume. Ms. Pei collected our essays and returned them the next day with comments. Mine had a red A+ and the sentence, precise, controlled, mature argument. Jiangning got an A. Linyu got A/B. Chunbo got a comment so brutal it became legend. This essay answers a different question with great confidence. For the rest of the day, people whispered that line whenever he passed. I should have felt satisfied. I did a little, but another feeling grew beneath it. Caution. The more they failed, the more dangerous Linyu became. Public embarrassment can make some people reflect. In people like her, it ferments. She struck that Friday. Not at me directly. At my reputation. A post appeared on the anonymous school forum at 10:38 p.m. The title was simple. Is Su Yunshi deliberately harming Class 3A before finals? The post accused me of deleting shared resources, uploading false notes, manipulating classmates, hoarding exam predictions, and using academic pressure to bully Linyu out of jealousy. It included screenshots of students complaining, a cropped image of Linyu crying in the cafeteria, and a blurry photo of me leaving the academic office. It ended with, a truly excellent student should lift others up, not step on them. In my last life, that post would have destroyed me because I would have rushed to defend myself in the comments, typing emotional paragraphs while anonymous users twisted every word. This time, I read it once, saved every screenshot, copied the URL, recorded the page, and went to sleep. That was the pattern interruption Linyu did not expect. She wanted me frantic. She wanted me messy. She wanted the teachers to see me arguing online and decide I was unstable. At 7:15 the next morning, I walked into the school IT office with Jiang Ning and asked to report cyberbullying, defamation, and misuse of school images. The IT teacher, Mr. Fong, looked like he had not fully awakened until I said, the post includes a photo taken outside the academic office. I believe the angle may identify the poster. Suddenly, he was awake. Schools dislike many things, but they especially dislike evidence trails that point back into their own hallways. By noon, the post was deleted. By Monday, the poster was not publicly named, but Lin Yu's face told me enough. She entered class with foundation that did not hide the gray under her eyes. Sun Qian hovered beside her, whispering urgently. Chun Bo avoided both of them. Ms. Han announced a reminder about online conduct and respecting classmates' privacy. Director Qian stood at the back of the room during the announcement, which made the reminder less gentle than usual. I did not look at Lin Yu, not once. Indifference can be more humiliating than accusation because it denies the enemy a stage. But during break, she came to my desk anyway.
Her voice was low.
Are you satisfied? I turned a page in my chemistry book. With what? Don't pretend. You'll need to be specific. A lot has happened. Her fingers curled against her skirt. You're ruining me. I finally looked up.
No.
I stopped helping you build yourself out of pieces of me. Gravity is doing the rest. Her eyes flashed. You think you're better than everyone because you can study? No, I closed the book. I think I'm done being worse than everyone in my own story. She leaned closer, the sweet perfume now sharp and suffocating. Finals aren't over. Be careful. There it was. A threat polished thin enough to pass as advice. I smiled. You too. After she left, Jiang Ning slid into the next seat. She's going to do something stupid. Probably. Are you scared? I thought about my last life, about hospital lights and condolence posts. Not of stupid things. Her stupid thing came disguised as generosity. 3 days before finals, Lin Yu announced in the class chat that she had compiled a new, open-source correction pack, using contributions from multiple students. She wrote that knowledge should be shared, that finals were about collective growth, and that she hoped everyone could move beyond conflict. The message received dozens of heart emojis within minutes. Then came the file link. I opened it on a school computer, not my own, and laughed softly. Most of the pack was patched together from old textbooks, public worksheets, and parts of my fake recovered folder. But hidden inside were several pages that looked very familiar. My real frameworks. Not the full versions, but fragments. My moral ambiguity thesis structure. My physics energy loss table. My chemistry trigger list. Not copied from my private paper notebook. She had never accessed that, but reconstructed from watching my answers in class, listening when teachers praised me, and collecting scraps from students who had glimpsed my work. It was clever. It was also incomplete in exactly the ways that could harm her. She had the skeleton, not the joints. I did not report it. Jiang Ning wanted me to. She's stealing again. Let her. Yunxi.
No, listen.
She thinks she has enough to survive. If I expose this now, teachers will intervene, students will pity her, and she'll adjust. If she uses it as is, she'll make high-level mistakes that reveal she copied understanding without having it. Ning stared at me. Sometimes you say things that make me worry about your future as a criminal mastermind. I prefer educational strategists. She sighed.
Fine.
But if she frames you again, I'm throwing a chair. Please don't. Chairs have done nothing wrong. The night before finals, I dreamed of my last exam in the previous life. Not the questions.
The sound.
Pens moving, pages turning, my own breath trapped behind my ribs as I realized 3 students around me had written answers identical to mine because they had memorized my shared solution sheets. I remembered the invigilator pausing beside my desk, then beside Lin Yu's, then frowning. I remembered being called in afterward. I remembered Lin Yu crying. I never meant to match her, she said. Maybe we studied from the same materials. Same materials.
Mine.
I woke before dawn with sweat cooling on my neck. For a moment, the room was dark enough to become the hospital again. Then my phone alarm rang soft and ordinary, and I was alive. I washed my face, tied my hair back, packed 2 black pens, 1 spare, my ID, water, and a chocolate bar. My mother made eggs. My father pretended not to hover by the door. Before I left, he cleared his throat and said, "Dear best." Such a small sentence. In the last life, near the end, he could barely say anything to me without sounding afraid I would break. I smiled. I will. At the school gate, students clustered like soldiers before battle, clutching notes and superstition. Some recited formulas. Some prayed. Some stared blankly into the distance. Linyu stood under the ginkgo tree surrounded by classmates, wearing a white cardigan over her uniform, looking pure enough to be printed on an admissions brochure. She was explaining something from her correction pack. As I passed, her voice grew louder. Remember, for energy transfer questions, the most important thing is to state the conservation principle confidently. Confidently, not correctly. I kept walking. The first final was mathematics, and it began with a pattern interruption so perfect I almost believed the universe had a sense of humor. The invigilator distributed the papers face down. The clock clicked. The room smelled like ink, dust, and fear.
Begin, he said.
Pages flipped. A second later, someone inhaled sharply. Then another. By question 4, I heard the silence change. This was not normal exam silence. This was the silence of students recognizing a road that was not on their stolen map. The recurrence proof appeared, but not in the exact form from my memory. Teacher Luo, bless his merciless heart, had modified it. The core idea remained, but the variables shifted, and the final induction required a boundary condition. My real study saved me. My fake notes killed anyone who memorized the shortcut. I worked steadily, writing each step cleanly, leaving space for corrections. Halfway through, Chenbo dropped his eraser. It bounced under my chair. I ignored it. He whispered, Yunxi. The invigilator looked up. Chenbo coughed and stared at his paper. Near the front, Linyu sat very still.
Too still.
Her pen hovered for almost a minute before moving again. She was trying to rebuild the proof under pressure. Maybe she could salvage some marks. Maybe not. I did not care. That was not cruelty. That was freedom. When the exam ended, students stumbled out pale and noisy. What was that? The folder method didn't work. Did we learn boundary cases? I thought it was supposed to be geometry. Chenbo shoved through the crowd and rounded on me. You knew. I looked at him, tired but calm. Everyone knew finals would test math. Don't play dumb. I'm not playing. Teacher Luo walked past at that exact moment and said, without stopping, neither is the exam. Chenbo's mouth shut, so hard his teeth clicked. Physics was worse for them.
Better for me.
The combined circuit and energy loss question arrived like a wolf wearing a school badge. It looked simple until Part C asked students to explain why the measured output differed from the ideal calculation and justify the change using both energy conservation and resistance heating. My fake notes had trained them to state the principle confidently and move on. My real preparation drilled the missing link, energy transformed into thermal energy due to resistance, reducing useful output, with units and direction clearly stated. I wrote the answer, checked the graph, checked units, then answered the extended response with the calm pleasure of someone unlocking a door she had built herself. Across the aisle, Sun Qian whispered, No, 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 under her breath until the invigilator warned her. Lin Yu's face remained composed, but a red mark appeared where her thumb pressed too hard into her pen. After the exam, she did not join the discussion. She went straight to the bathroom with Sun Qian. The rumors began before lunch. Chenbo had left 2 pages blank. Zhao Min cried. 3 students complained that Lin Yu's open source pack had misled them. One boy from class 5 asked for a refund from her old miracle pack in the hallway, loudly enough for teacher Huang to hear. The beautiful thing about finals is that they reveal the difference between image and structure. Image can survive quizzes, presentations, group work, teacher favoritism, even gossip. But an exam paper does not care whether your hair shines under sunlight. It asks. You answer, or you do not. By the chemistry final, desperation had made the copycats creative. Someone tried to create a new group chat excluding me and Jiang Ning, then accidentally added Ning because her profile picture was similar to Zhao Min's. Ning spent 10 minutes silently watching them exchange panic summaries before sending a single message. You people would fail espionage too. The chat died immediately. Lin Yu posted no more resources. Instead, She sat alone before chemistry, reading furiously, lips moving. For a moment, watching her, I felt something almost like pity. Not sympathy.
Pity.
She could have been excellent. That was the part that made her story ugly. She had intelligence, charm, discipline when watched, and access to teachers who adored her. She could have built something real. Instead, she chose shortcuts because shortcuts gave applause faster. I wondered if, in some other life, we might have been rivals without hatred. Then she looked up, saw me, and her eyes hardened with the same old blame. The pity vanished. The chemistry paper opened with standard questions, then turned sharply into the equilibrium materials scenario. Temperature changed. Pressure shifted. The catalyst appeared only to test whether students would falsely claim it changed yield. I underlined the conditions, breathed, answered. The fake folder's poison bloomed across the room. I could almost see it. Students writing that the catalyst increased final yield, that equilibrium shifted because of rate, that temperature could be ignored because the table looked familiar. Familiarity is a trap when you do not understand why things are true. Afterward, Teacher Huang stood outside the exam hall as students exited. She asked no questions.
She did not need to.
Her eyes recorded everything. When Lin Yu walked past, Teacher Huang said, "See me after the last final." Lin Yu's step faltered. Everyone noticed. English came next, and with it came the cruelest mirror. The prompt was exactly moral ambiguity, but framed through a character whose betrayal protected a family reputation at the cost of an innocent person. I read it twice. My hand went cold. It was too close. Not to the story text we studied, but to my life. In the last life, Lin Yu had betrayed me to protect her own reputation. The class had sacrificed me to protect their scores. Teachers had doubted me to protect the school's image. And I, stupidly, had protected everyone else's comfort by refusing to fight loudly enough. For the first 5 minutes, I did not write. I sat with the pen above the page while the old pain rose like black water. Then I heard my mother's voice. "Kindness should not eat you alive." I began. I wrote the best essay of my life. Not because of rebirth memory, not because of revenge, but because I finally understood moral ambiguity from the inside. I argued that a character's questionable choice reveals a society where reputation becomes currency and truth becomes negotiable when power is uneven. I wrote that silence is often mistaken for peace, but silence can also be a tool that protects the guilty. I wrote that accountability begins when the harmed person refuses to carry the emotional cost of everyone else's comfort. My hand cramped. I did not stop. When the final bell rang, I put down my pen and felt something in me unclench. Not fully. Healing is not a door. It is a series of locks. But one opened. The last final was history, and by then the class had stopped asking me for anything. That alone felt like victory. They avoided my desk as if boundaries were contagious. Chunbo looked hollow-eyed. Sun Qian's lips were chapped from biting them. Zhao Min had begun actually studying from the textbook, which was late, but at least human. Lin Yu arrived without her cardigan, hair tied back plainly, face bare of performance. She looked almost like a real student. The history exam punished memorized slogans exactly as I remembered. Compare reform language across 2 periods, evaluate purpose, audience, and practical limits. The fake notes had given them beautiful generalities. I wrote specific evidence. Names, policies, outcomes, contradictions. Not too much. Enough. When I finished, I had 12 minutes left. I checked dates, tightened 2 sentences, and then looked out the window. The ginkgo leaves shook in the hot wind. Somewhere beyond the school walls, life continued with insulting normalcy. People bought fruit. Buses sighed at stops. A child probably cried because a toy broke. The world did not know that inside this exam hall, one girl was rewriting the ending of a life nobody remembered but her. Maybe that was fine. Not every victory needs witnesses. Some victories are simply the absence of a familiar knife in your back. When finals ended, the school became a pressure cooker with the lid removed. Students screamed, laughed, cried, threw papers into the air until teachers shouted, hugged people they barely liked, and immediately began calculating possible scores with the desperation of gamblers. I walked out slowly with Jiangning. She bought 2 ice creams from the convenience store outside the gate and handed me the chocolate one. To surviving, she said. I tapped mine against hers. To not sharing cloud folders. To educational strategy. To chairs remaining unharmed. We sat on the curb in the shade, uniforms sticking to our backs, and for 10 minutes we were just 2 girls eating melting ice cream after exams.
No revenge. No reverse. No copycats.
Then Lin Yu appeared across the street.
Alone.
She saw us and hesitated. Ning muttered, "Incoming tragedy performance." But Lin Yu did not cry. She crossed the street and stopped in front of me, hands at her sides. "Did you know the exam questions?" she asked. Her voice was flat. Dangerous. I studied patterns. That's not what I asked. That's my answer. She looked at me for a long time. You changed. I laughed once, softly. People keep saying that like it's an accusation. You were easier before. I was dying before. The words came out before I could stop them. Lin Yu frowned, not understanding. Of course she did not. In her memory, I had not died yet. In mine, she had helped dig. She leaned closer. If you think this is over because exams ended, you're wrong. Jiang Ning stood, but I lifted a hand. I looked at Lin Yu, really looked at her. The perfect face, the tired eyes, the fear hiding under pride. No, I said. It's over, because I'm not competing for your permission anymore. She flinched as if I had struck her. Then she turned and walked away. Results came out 6 days later. The school released them online at 9 a.m., and by 9:01 the server crashed. By 9:07 the class group chat was in flames. I waited until 9:20 because I had learned the value of not rushing toward judgment, even good judgment. My hand still shook when I logged in. Trauma does not care that you prepared. It remembers previous endings and whispers them over new beginnings. The page loaded slowly. Then my scores appeared. Mathematics, 148. Physics, 96. Chemistry, 97. English, 94. History, 95. Total rank, first in grade. I stared at the screen until the numbers blurred. First. Not second behind a stolen halo. Not suspended. Not accused. First. My mother thought something was wrong because I made no sound. She came running from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. I turned the laptop toward her. She read it once, then again, and covered her mouth. My father, who had been pretending to fix a cabinet hinge for 20 minutes, stepped in and squinted at the screen. First, he asked, as if the word might break if spoken too loudly. I nodded. My mother cried then, but not like the hospital. These tears stood upright. They had pride in them. My father turned away and coughed hard, which was his way of crying without surrender. I let them hold me. For once, I did not feel like their hope was a burden. I felt like I had carried it somewhere safe. The class rankings spread within the hour. Jiang Ning ranked 3rd in grade, then sent me 17 celebratory stickers and 1 message. Lin Yu is 41st. Chen Bo is 126th. I am experiencing inner peace. I stared at Lin Yu's rank longer than I expected. 41st was not failure for most students. It was still good. But for the school beauty, who had built an empire on borrowed excellence, it was collapse. Her individual scores told the real story. Decent in memorization heavy sections, weak in application, disastrous in the exact places my fake folder had encouraged shallow confidence. Chen Bo's rank was worse. Sun Xian barely remained in the top 200. Zhao Min improved slightly because she had panicked early enough to return to textbooks. There was a lesson there if anyone wanted one. By afternoon, rumors shifted from Yunxi sabotaged us to did Lin Yu's materials ruin everyone? Students who had begged for my notes now demanded accountability from hers. Screenshots of her paid miracle pack resurfaced. Class 5 students posted complaints. Someone compared her pack to the final questions and highlighted misleading sections. The same crowd that once fed on me had found a new meal. I did not join. Not out of mercy. Out of cleanliness. Revenge had brought me to the door. Obsession would drag me back inside. The school moved faster this time because public embarrassment pointed in the correct direction. Director Qian called Lin Yu in for a formal review. Teacher Huang submitted concerns about unauthorized academic material sales. Teacher Luo provided quiz evidence showing identical flawed methods across students. Mr. Fong confirmed that the anonymous forum post originated from a device logged into an account connected to Sun Qian, though everyone knew who benefited. Sun Qian broke first. That was predictable. Followers rarely protect queens once the crown begins cutting their hands. She admitted Lin Yu asked her to post concerns anonymously to pressure me into restoring the folder. She claimed she did not know it would become serious. People always say that after choosing seriousness. Lin Yu denied directing her, then admitted discussing feelings, then admitted sharing screenshots, then cried. The written apology she eventually posted in the class chat was polished but bloodless. I sincerely apologize for my mistakes in handling study resources and interpersonal conflict. I will reflect deeply and return all improper payments. Improper payments,
Not theft.
interpersonal conflict, not defamation. Reflect deeply, not change. I read it once and turned off my phone. Later, Ms. Han asked if I wanted to respond publicly to heal the class atmosphere. I said no. She looked disappointed. I had stopped being a convenient symbol of forgiveness, and adults who prefer tidy endings dislike victims who walk away before the group photo. The scholarship recommendation meeting happened the following week. In my last life, this was where everything ended. I remembered sitting outside the conference room while teachers discussed my integrity concern. I remembered Lin Yu entering with clean documents and leaving with red eyes, hugged by Ms. Han. I remembered my name missing from the final list. This time, I wore a freshly ironed uniform, tied my hair neatly, and carried my portfolio. Exam results, teacher comments, competition drafts, personal statement, and original study notebook. Not the cloud folder. Never again the cloud folder. When I entered, the panel included Director Qian, Teacher Luo, Teacher Huang, Ms. Pei, and 2 administrators. Lin Yu sat 2 chairs away, hands clenched around her file. She had still applied. Of course she had. People like her do not disappear because truth enters the room. They simply try to rearrange the furniture around it. Director Qian asked each candidate to speak about academic growth and contribution. Lin Yu went first. She spoke beautifully. She always did. She mentioned resilience, service, sharing resources, learning from mistakes, wanting to support others. Her voice trembled at the right moments. Some panel members softened. Then it was my turn. I stood. My notes remained closed in my hand. For a long time, I said, I confused contribution with self-erasure. I thought being useful to others would make me worthy of respect. This semester taught me that true academic contribution cannot be built on uncredited labor, pressure, or performance. My growth was not only in ranking first. It was in learning to protect the integrity of my own work, to study deeply instead of widely for approval, and to choose accountability over popularity. The room was very quiet. I did not look at Lin Yu. I did not need to. If recommended, I will represent the school not by appearing generous while hiding shortcuts, but by producing original work and respecting the work of others. Teacher Luo looked down at his papers, but I saw the corner of his mouth move. The recommendation went to me. That sentence looked small after everything it cost, but it changed the shape of the future. Director Qian announced it formally 2 days later. Su Yunxi, grade rank 1, provincial preparation candidate, scholarship recommendation priority. Jiangning hugged me so hard my ribs protested. My parents bought a cake with fruit on top because cream alone was too expensive and too sweet, and my father took 12 photos of it from nearly identical angles. At school, reactions were mixed. Some students congratulated me sincerely. Some avoided me. Some acted like they had always known I was brilliant. Chunbo muttered that finals were unfair this year, which was the closest he could get to admitting he was not. Lin Yu did not come to school the day after the announcement. Then another day. Then she returned with her hair cut shorter and her expression sealed. Her recommendation had been suspended pending review of the materials selling issue and forum post. She was not expelled. Real life rarely gives perfect punishments. But she was no longer untouchable. That mattered. Watching her sit alone for the first time, I did not feel the wild satisfaction I had imagined. I felt distance. She looked smaller without the crowd. Not harmless. Just smaller. A fallen knife can still cut, but only if you pick it up. 2 weeks later, she approached me outside the library. No audience.
No tears. No cardigan. Suyunchi, she said.
Formal. Good. I returned the money. I nodded. Okay. I also told Director Chien that the forum post was my idea. That surprised me. Not enough to trust her, but enough to look at her fully. Why? Her laugh was thin. Sun Qian was going to show more messages. There it was. Not conscience. Calculation. Still, truth spoken for selfish reasons can repair some damage. She looked past me at the library windows. Do you hate me? I thought about lying. Then I decided truth was easier. Yes. Her face tightened. At least you're honest. I'm not finished. She looked back. I said, I hate what you did. I hate who I became around you. I hate that I wanted your approval. But I don't want to spend my life orbiting you, even as an enemy. Her eyes flickered. Maybe that hurt more than hatred. Hatred still grants importance. So what now? She asked. Now you study. Or don't. But not from me. I walked around her. She did not stop me. In the library, Jiang Ning waited with 2 seats saved and a pile of provincial prep problems that looked personally designed by demons. Drama, she asked. Closure adjacent. Good enough. She pushed a problem sheet toward me. Question 3 is disgusting. I sat down and smiled. My favorite. Summer arrived in slow heat and loud cicadas. The school year loosened its grip. Students talked about holidays, tutoring camps, family trips, part-time jobs, sleep. I joined the provincial preparation group under teacher Luo, and for the first time, I studied with people who did not expect me to carry them. They argued solutions, challenged assumptions, admitted confusion, and guarded their own notebooks without shame. It was paradise with worse lighting. Teacher Luo gave us problems that made my brain feel bruised. Teacher Huang recommended extra physics readings and said, You have strong reasoning. Don't waste it explaining basics to lazy people unless you're being paid. Coming from her, that was practically a blessing. Ms. Pei submitted my essay to a student writing competition after asking my permission first. Permission. Such a simple word. Such a revolutionary experience. My mother began telling relatives I was first in grade with the shy pride of someone afraid happiness might attract taxes. My father bought a new second-hand delivery bike, then let me place the first sticker on the handlebar. It was a small cartoon cloud. I chose it because I had deleted one cloud and found my sky. But Rebirth did not magically make me fearless. Some nights, I still woke expecting accusations. Sometimes, when a teacher called my name unexpectedly, my stomach dropped before my mind caught up. Sometimes, I saw a group whispering and felt the old urge to shrink. Healing was not a triumphant montage. It was noticing the fear, naming it, and doing the next correct thing anyway. I kept evidence now. I backed up my work privately. I learned school policy. I stopped apologizing when people were disappointed by my boundaries. When classmates asked for help respectfully, I sometimes gave explanations, not files. If they pushed for notes, I said no. The first few times, my voice shook. Then it steadied. Respect filters people quickly. The decent ones adapted. The entitled ones left. Both outcomes improved my life. Jiang Ning said I had become politely terrifying, which I accepted as a compliment. One afternoon near the end of summer, I found an old local copy of the deleted shared folder on a USB drive. The real one. The generous one. The one I had made before bitterness. Before Rebirth, before I understood that open doors need hinges and locks. I opened it and scrolled through the files. They were good, careful, thoughtful. Each note carried the handwriting of a girl who wanted to be loved for being useful. For a moment, grief rose so sharply I had to sit down. Not for the folder, For her, the old me had not been stupid. She had been lonely. She had been raised to believe effort would be rewarded, kindness returned, truth recognized. She had not known that some people see generosity as weakness because they have never offered it themselves. I copied the folder into a private archive and renamed it Proof I Worked Hard. Then I deleted the USB copy. Not in anger. In farewell. The girl who made that folder deserved remembrance, not repetition. The new semester began with rain. Classroom 3A smelled of wet umbrellas and floor cleaner. The water stains still marked the ceiling. The blackboard had a new countdown, this time for provincial mocks. Students shuffled in with fresh notebooks and old habits. Linyu entered quietly and sat 2 rows away from her former group. Sun Qian sat elsewhere. Chunbo had transferred to a lower-level math support class after his parents complained, then discovered complaints did not solve equations. Jiangning dropped into the seat beside me and placed a strawberry milk on my desk like tradition. Ready? She asked. I looked at the front of the room, at the empty teacher's desk, at the window where rain blurred the courtyard into silver lines. Yes. My laptop stayed in my bag. My paper notebook opened under my hand. On the first page, I wrote a sentence. My work is mine before it is useful to anyone else. Then, after a pause, I added, my kindness is a choice, not a debt. Teacher Luo entered with a stack of papers thick enough to cause despair. Welcome back, he said. Let's see who actually studied over break. The class groaned. I smiled. The first problem was difficult, but not impossible. That was life now. Difficult, not impossible. I solved the first step, crossed out a careless assumption, corrected it, and felt the clean satisfaction of a mind working for itself. Halfway through class, a student behind me whispered, Su Yunxi, can you send me your notes later? My pen paused. The room did not freeze. No dramatic music played. Nobody turned. It was such a small moment. A fork in a road invisible to everyone else. In my last life, I would have said yes before finishing my breath. This time, I turned slightly and said, no, but I can explain the concept after class if you try it first. The student blinked, surprised, then nodded. Okay.
Just like that. No collapse. No hatred.
No moral trial. Boundaries, I was learning, feel cruel mainly to people who benefited from you having none. To everyone else, they are simply information. Months later, when the provincial results came out, I ranked high enough to earn the scholarship interview. Not because of a cloud folder. Not because of stolen predictions. Because I studied until knowledge became structure, and structure held under pressure. At the interview, a panelist asked me, what was the most important lesson you learned this year? I could have said perseverance. Admissions panels love perseverance. I could have said teamwork, growth mindset, service. Instead, I thought of deleted files, cafeteria silence, red-marked quizzes, my mother's apples, Linyu's frozen smile, Jiangning's strawberry milk, and the girl I used to be, standing alone in a life where everyone borrowed from her until nothing remained. I answered. I learned that sharing has value only when ownership is respected. Without respect, sharing becomes extraction. I want to build knowledge strong enough to help others, but I also want to protect the person doing the building. The panelist looked up. Really looked. Then she smiled. That is unusually mature. I smiled back. I had a difficult year. That was true in every timeline. I did not know whether rebirth was a miracle, a mistake, or the universe correcting a clerical error. I never found out why I returned at that exact moment, with my finger on the edge of the folder that ruined me. Maybe some god of exhausted students took pity. Maybe my own regret was loud enough to crack time. Maybe stories simply hate unfinished justice. But I know this. The moment I clicked delete, I did not only remove files. I removed access. I removed entitlement. I removed the invisible agreement that my silence could be used as public property. The copycats lost every final answer because they never had answers in the first place. They had borrowed confidence, borrowed structure, borrowed polish, borrowed me. When the borrowing ended, so did the illusion. And me? I did not become cold. That was what people misunderstood. Ice is not the only alternative to being burned. I became clear. Clear enough to see who came to my desk with respect and who came with empty hands expecting harvest. Clear enough to help without disappearing. Clear enough to forgive myself for the years I mistook being needed for being loved. On graduation day, long after the scandal had faded into school legend, someone mentioned the cloud folder again. A younger student asked if it was true that I once deleted the most valuable review folder in the grade and caused half the class to fail finals. The story had grown horns by then. Apparently, in one version, I hacked the school server. In another, I predicted every exam through illegal means. In Jiangming's favorite version, I was a vengeful academic spirit haunting lazy students through corrupted PDFs. I laughed when I heard that one. The younger student waited for my answer with wide eyes. I adjusted my graduation sash, looked across the courtyard where my parents were trying to take photos without blocking other families, and saw Lin Yu standing near the gate. She had recovered somewhat. Not queen again, not ruined, just another graduate with a complicated face. Our eyes met. She looked away first. I turned back to the younger student. No, I said. I didn't cause anyone to fail. The student looked disappointed. Then what happened? I smiled. I stopped letting them copy me. The results explained the rest. She thought about that, then nodded slowly, as if I had given her something better than gossip. Maybe I had. When my name was called, I walked across the stage under bright lights, my certificate warm from the printer, applause rising and falling like rain. In my last life, I had imagined this stage from outside the school gates, reputation broken, future delayed, body already beginning its long collapse. In this life, I stood straight. I found my parents in the crowd. My mother waved with both hands. My father pretended to film steadily and failed because he was crying again. Jiangming shouted my name loud enough to embarrass 3 teachers. Teacher Luo clapped once, then nodded as if I had solved a proof correctly. Teacher Huang's expression remained severe, but her eyes were kind. And somewhere behind me, the past loosened its grip. Not gone. Never completely, but weaker. I had returned the borrowed version of myself to the grave and kept the real one alive. That evening, after the ceremony, I opened my laptop one last time before packing for the scholarship summer program. My cloud drive was clean and organized. Private folders. Permission settings checked. Backups secured. No public links.
No miracle packs. No communal illusions.
I created a new document and titled it, For the Girl Who Comes After Me. I did not fill it with final answers. I wrote something else. Do not confuse kindness with availability. Do not confuse popularity with trust. Do not confuse someone needing you with someone valuing you. Share when you choose, protect what you build, and remember that the people angry at your boundaries were already benefiting from their absence. I saved it privately. Maybe one day I would share it with a student who needed the lesson more than the notes. Maybe I would not. The choice was mine. Outside my window, the city lights blinked awake. My mother called that dinner was ready. My father argued that we should celebrate with extra dishes, even though my mother said leftovers existed for a reason. Jiangming sent a message demanding I review her packing list because apparently academic independence did not extend to suitcase organization. I laughed, closed the laptop, and stood. In the end, revenge was not the best part. Watching Chunbo stare at a blank exam page was satisfying, yes. Watching Lin Yu freeze when the final answers vanished from under her borrowed crown was satisfying too. Seeing the class realize that my work had been a ladder they never thanked me for, that had its sweetness. But the best part was quieter. It was walking into an exam hall without carrying 30 other people on my back. It was eating lunch alone and not feeling abandoned. It was saying no and discovering the world did not end. It was my mother crying for joy instead of grief. It was my father taking photos of a cake. It was Jiangming sitting beside me in the library as if loyalty could be ordinary. It was looking at my own hands and realizing they were not empty just because I had stopped handing everything away. I had thought rebirth meant getting another chance to defeat the people who ruined me. I was wrong. Rebirth meant getting another chance to stop helping them do it. And when I deleted that shared cloud folder, I did not erase my future. I finally made space for it.